Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marketing Matters. This is a podcast where we talk about everything related to marketing strategy, digital media trends, as well as ad tech and everything in between. So, I'm your host, Stephen Atema.
And I'm Atema Victoria.
Yeah, uh, thank you, Vicky. So, I was just thinking today in the morning, we have over 3.2 million YouTube podcasts. That is YouTube
Wow.
alone. Out of that, that is like 100, and out of that, the statistics shows that there's like 150 million episodes as at today. No, actually, as at yesterday. So I was wondering to myself, why do you need another podcast? Yeah, Vicky, why do you need another
Wow.
podcast?
I think there's still space uh, for us to still be able to create content, because the reason why we began this podcast, or we even thought about it, it's because um, we have been in the space, we are in the marketing space for some time now, and we have realized that businesses are not utilizing marketing the way they should to generate more income, especially the online space. So, for from our end, we need the marketing podcast, and I believe it's going to really help many businesses to generate more income, because them understanding how marketing works will help them make more money. And also, the experts in the field, most of the time we try to make marketing very complicated. So we are in this podcast to simplify it in the best way possible for businesses to embrace it and to utilize the space to make more money.
Yeah, that's good. Mine is simple. I just like our conversations, and I thought, okay, so if we are having a podcast, if we can have an archive of this conversation, and it could
Yeah.
indeed what you're saying about the marketing space, and even any place you talk about guys in the financial space, talk about techies, talk about even guys in the academia. People always try to make their industry look very elitist or very complicated, I guess, maybe to serve their own ends. But when
Yeah.
you're trying to also get more people into that space, as well as trying to help the people who are starting out to understand what it is that your industry entails, and even your end user to get more value from your services, it makes more sense to talk to in a language that everybody understands. So we hope that these conversations that we have with my sister will be something that you guys can relate to, and that can also build either your careers or your business, or just for entertainment. Who knows? Some people like listening to things that are out of their space just to get some form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Now that elephant in the room is has been dealt with, I think we can go through what we're going to talk about today, and it's a handful. As I was doing the research for the topics, I had thought that we're going to cover three things, but every day something happens in the marketing world. So just a
Yeah.
highlight of what is happening in the marketing world, as well as what has been trending in the last week. So the first thing, Instagram is testing skippable ads. We have Facebook trying to get Gen Zs or the Gen Alpha to find it interesting again. We have adult content being acceptable on X. Adobe angering creators. Is SEO dead? Apple had an event yesterday. We'll talk about that. And then just everything and anything that is happening in the marketing space for Gen Zs, for millennials, as well as for baby boomers. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think we can just get started, especially for the first topic, and this is very interesting. Every time I hear things on Meta, or now specifically Instagram, I think
Yeah.
this Zuckerberg is just trying to maximize returns. So they're talking about X. Sorry, they're talking about Instagram employing or starting to deploy slowly unskippable ads on the Instagram platform. What are your thoughts, Vicky?
Um, Now for Instagram, I think it's a good idea, especially for businesses. Now, since I'm emphasizing on how businesses will benefit on these social media platforms, it's beneficial to them, because think about it. If you've created an ad and people are just scrolling through, they are not able to pause to listen to your ad. Maybe the unskippable ad, I think it's 3 to 5 seconds. It will make your point be driven home. So for the user, you might maybe at the end of the day be able to convert more users because now they are convinced, having stayed or being forced to watch your advert. So I think it's beneficial to them, and I also think it might be beneficial to the content creators because there has also been an argument on how content creators will be able to benefit on the platform. So this will be an opportunity for even content creators in the future to get more money, having the skippable ads on their pages. But on the other hand, I'm looking at this kind of advert was working well on YouTube. So on YouTube, we had longer videos and then you have the non-skippable ads. But right now, when you look
Mhm.
at Instagram, we have short videos. Now, I don't know how they'll be able to balance the value to the user and also value to the business people. So that is where I think
Yeah.
they might need to really think about it because 3 to 5 seconds for a 1 minute video is a very long time.
Yeah, actually the thing that I always, while as an investor, I would be very happy for Meta maximizing value on these platforms. There's always that very thin line between how much can you extract from this quote unquote free use of your platform to
Yeah,
that goes to borderline affecting the experience. And
yeah,
but I would like to think that there are several very smart people at Meta who have done different iterations, and
yeah,
they may find something that works. It has not been tested in Kenya yet, but I guess it's only natural that they would test it first in the big markets in US and then see if the big markets can adopt it. Unfortunately, the rest of us, we just have to have to follow what everybody's doing. But yeah, it will be very interesting to see how Meta, because I'm sure they'll say they'll start with Instagram, but if it's successful, they're going to make it go to Messenger, they're going to make it go to
true.
Facebook, they're going to make it even go to WhatsApp. Who knows?
What's up?
So
Yeah,
it's just interesting to see how that grows. Meta is one of the is in a very unique position as a tech platform. All the other tech platforms have just one app or one platform that they can maximize value on. Meta has been able to, through acquisitions and different strategies, get three major platforms. That is IG, Facebook, and now WhatsApp. So they have a very wide net of opportunities for them to grow. So I guess we'll just wait and see and how that will work, especially given that the biggest users on those platforms are on the video content, which is short form content. So like you said, it is
yeah,
indeed very interesting to see how much value they can maximize on an ad that is 5 minutes, 5 seconds long or less, and how it will be integrating to the user, as well as how they will control the churn, because they also have a very big competitor in TikTok. And
yeah,
I'm just curious how that will work out. But who knows? You can never write off Mr. Zuckerberg. And if he
yeah.
says that they're going to do that, his team has done all the research and they understand what it means. So yeah. Anyway, still on Meta, there was a research that was released the other day about that people who are spending uh, a lot of time on Facebook, they are actually spending it on videos. And there was a whole research. Let me just share with you what I found about them. Some interesting statistics that I think guys can find in it here. So
Okay.
they're saying, just as I share, that this platform, or this Facebook platform for their users, I think, if I'll just get the statistics right, but around 30 people spend around 20 something minutes on the platform that is for Facebook, and almost an hour
Yeah.
on TikTok.
On TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, because you would have thought that, okay, people are not really too keen on these platforms, but interestingly, there is a lot of content that people are sharing, are consuming on the platform. So you can see that an average adult user, this is especially for the adult users, they're spending 17 minutes a day watching video on Facebook, 21 on Instagram, and then overall they're spending in the whole year 32 minutes on Facebook and 35 minutes on Instagram. Now contrast that with this is just for disclosure, this is the statistics for US, and because US is the biggest market for these platforms. It's you can mirror it on the European market as well as the African market. So another interesting statistic is that in the same period, guys, adults, US adults were spending 1 hour, 54 minutes on average on TikTok, while they were spending just about half that, which is around 30 minutes on 32 minutes on Facebook and 35 minutes on Instagram. So it's quite interesting to see the statistics about these different brands, but also it's telling you that content is moving heavily and increasingly towards the video content. Because
Yeah.
7 years ago, Facebook and IG were just platforms for images. But
Yeah.
suddenly, suddenly, guys, that is driving a lot of even their user acquisition, and we shall talk about that maybe later. But it's driving a lot of engagement even on those platforms. What are your thoughts about Facebook? Even that article was saying that Facebook, it seems Facebook and or Meta are officially video platforms. Mm,
Yeah, actually, I think it's almost the same article or a similar article that was talking about the trying to capture the Gen Zs and the alpha alpha kids. Is that the same
mm.
article?
No,
Yeah.
I
So,
think there's another one that talks about them going for the younger audience. Let me just share
oh,
that.
okay, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, because the video content is majorly to focus on them, the Gen Zs and
yeah.
the alpha. I think alpha kids are the 2010s and below, because they
Mm,
realize that most of this young generation, their concentration span is a bit um, low, so they lose their concentration very fast. So videos are the
mm,
way to go. And even just looking at the basics, like the alpha are children like 5 years, teens. Those people, when you look at them, even the type of content on YouTube, I think this is where they got their idea. Because when you look at YouTube, the cocomelons, the pepper bear,
Ah,
they are
mhm.
making so much money because of the views that they are making,
On
getting
YouTube,
from
right?
those. Yes, because kids are just watching consistently such kind of videos.
Yeah,
The content that is there. So Facebook has realized this is where the future is. So if they don't focus on this, and I think if it's not the same article, it's a different article that was saying the younger generation
yeah,
have
I've shared
left.
it.
Yeah, they have left the the Facebook platform. They are now on these other interesting platforms like TikTok. So they are trying to look at how can we be able to capture this market before they leave. And if they don't capture it, it means that Meta will cease to exist in the long
In
run.
future.
So they have to be able to
Mhm.
see how best they can be able to capture that market.
Yeah, I think maybe not Meta, but mainly Facebook, because I was listening to also another podcast in the morning, and somebody was talking about how Gen Zs and Gen Alpha have very low trust levels on for Instagram. They feel that
Yeah.
the life portrayed. That's why a lot of people, and interestingly, they say it's Gen Zs, but it's also affecting also millennials and boomers, because they feel, or most users on those platforms feel like the life portrayed, or the lifestyle portrayed on those platforms is not the realistic platform. So you can find that's why a lot of TikTok went viral, because majority of the world is not wealthy, does not live in aesthetically pleasing houses. They don't talk
Yeah.
British English. So when you find that an audience or somebody does a video and it's so relatable, so it has moved a lot of audiences, especially the young ones, who feel like there's a lot of fakery in these social media platforms to TikTok. Not that there's no fakery in TikTok, but the fact that they have been able to create an impression that people are more real on TikTok than they are on IG and other platforms like Facebook. It is a very big, and I think that's why even Snapchat is not dead per se, but
Yeah.
the numbers on Snapchat are very, like, you would think TikTok is something very different, but TikTok was just an evolved Snapchat. And if you look at it well, what they
Yeah.
just did was they did not make the platform, or somehow, I don't even think it was their intention, but some way somehow the masses adopted TikTok because they felt that this platform was not, it did not force them to be something that they are not. Now
They are
still,
not.
now that you've already that segment about the young audiences being on Facebook. Facebook is trying to respond to that, and if you see the article that I'm sharing, that there is a whole I don't think I'm not able to think I'm not sure if you can see it.
The
There is a
content, the
whole
article.
there is a whole uh, strategy by Facebook to try to now get back these young audiences. And interestingly, what this article has shown me, or is showing, is that while we think Facebook is a dying platform, they are still 19% of audiences are still, at least in North America. We can say that sometimes different geographies have different behaviors, and it's not usually entirely accurate to just translate what is happening in US and assume it's happening in the whole world. But the fact that, like I said earlier, US is the biggest market for these social media platforms. 19% of their users are young users, and this is 19% of a total 205 million active users on Facebook. That is a big number.
That's
So
a good.
it is, yeah, that's a healthy number for 19% of your users being Gen Z. And what they're arguing is causing all these things is because of Facebook trying to now do away with content that they feel is not resonating with the youth, like news feeds and whatnot. What they're trying to do now is give them things that are more in line with them. Because, like we said earlier, people are getting more into video, so they introduce reels, and you
Yeah,
see private sharing on reels, which is basically you see a good video and you share, has increased by 80% year on year. So it the strategy is working. There's also a lot of collaboration with creators, but then also the content that these young kids are consuming, things like they're saying they've introduced marketplace for bargain seekers. They've also introduced things like I think it was a dating platform, like you can go and get a partner on those platforms. So it's quite interesting what is happening in these different platforms. And like I said earlier, it is very ignorant to ignore what Zuckerberg is doing for these different platforms. So yeah,
yeah,
it is indeed, it's true that in fact, if you look historically, the other platform that has been able to grow and maintain relevance out despite the platforms coming up is Facebook, X, and YouTube. But while everybody, counts them out whenever there's a new platform like Snapchat, there was when LinkedIn came, guys were saying, okay, people are going to move from X to LinkedIn. But some way, somehow, these platforms are through different strategies, like we're seeing Facebook embracing is they have invested a lot of research in their teams to try to understand what is the next generation and how do we make ourselves relevant. So maybe you might even see them changing the name from Facebook to something else, because a guy who was born 10 years ago might not
yeah,
even remember the like Facebook. But because they're coming to the market, then you can leverage on that, what I would call ignorance of consumers, to
yeah.
just sell them a new product that they would ideally, if they were alive, they would be saying, that is for my mom and my dad. So that's
Yeah.
quite something. So
Okay.
yeah, from Meta, now let's go to X. There have been two major things that have happened on X, and over the weekend there was a whole hullabaloo about Adobe. Adobe is trying to was sharing an update to their consumers, especially for their two main products, which is Adobe Cloud, Creative Cloud, and Document Cloud. And what they were doing was that they were telling guys that we have updated our terms of service, so you need to read through and accept. And one of the users noted something about the updated terms of service, which was more or less saying that Adobe has the right to use your content and share it copyright free, and it caused a whole lot of uproar. And in fact, the head of product and I think strategy, I can't remember his name well, was actually the one responding to the queries, because guys were like, no, we are unsubscribing, we don't care about what this platform is doing. Now Adobe was forced to do a clarification about what that terms and conditions were, but that didn't assuage people's fears about, these guys are trying to harness our data. Adobe, in the heat of all these AI conversations, I guess it's understandable that people are a bit, apprehensive about platforms doing this. And then to make it, I guess, more suspicious is Adobe has its own AI engine. I think it's called Firefly, that they're trying now to also to learn the the how the platform works, how users work, so that they can develop products. So I don't know if what your thoughts are. Let me just share what the team shared, or what Adobe was trying to tell the users about. But I guess people didn't care that that they were telling them. This thing has been there. When I was trying to do research, so that you don't be biased about this reporting. But what I found interesting was that the the terms of service that guys were actually complaining about were terms of service that had been in existence for over 2 years. And the update that they were saying was a new update had actually started in, I think, in February, early February, especially when it became clear that AI is going to start defining how businesses are doing their operations. So I just like to hear your reactions before I can share what thoughts are about all this
I
AI
think
field.
generally, all these platforms, even the social media platforms, Facebook, we have signed a new terms of service for business pages. We have the Canva, all these platforms, they have new terms of service or terms of use. And they have integrated AI in a way in all these platforms. So I think it's just the language maybe that people misunderstood. But someone said, as long as you have put any content on the online platform, be sure it's going to be used somehow in ways that will benefit the specific business, whether it's social media, whether it's Adobe. So I think it's not a really big deal. Maybe it's how people interpret the terms of use that was displayed there. But AI is on all these platforms, and these platforms, you don't know how worse or best they can use the data that they gain to be able to gain
Mhm.
more revenue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was reading the tweets of that head of product, and he was trying to tell guys, even if you decide to, of course not in the exact words, but even if you decide to leave Adobe and go to another platform, you will get these same terms of service, because
Yeah.
they are just how some of these terms of service are not because these companies want to impose them. Others are privacy concerns that they're required
Yeah.
by law to have you do those for data protection. Others are just part of the service that is required. I think he gave an example of how when somebody wants to maybe to transfer data from one platform to another one that is supported by a third party, that technically in legal terms is allowing Adobe to take that content. What is it called? To take that content free of, I forget the term, but it's something about to take that content, like own it for a temporary period as it transfers it to the third party, so that maybe you can share to your different platforms, like, because there are so many integrations for creators or anybody who is conversant with Adobe, that allows you to share your content, make it look in a different way. So I guess maybe they got it wrong. Maybe, in my view, especially that actual terms that said, we can have the right to use your content rights free, and manipulate it and whatnot. Me, in my view, it was like the guy who was who was updating that terms of service. Of course, these are legal people, and sometimes people get carried away with the wording. And this guy was like, let's ensure Adobe is covered
Yeah.
end to end,
To
especially
be
because
clear.
you never know how this. Yeah, you might find that, hey, I did a creative on Adobe. Adobe is using my creative to generate something that is similar, but because I can't, point a finger that exactly this is what I did. So the legal guys is trying to just protect the company. But
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, let's just, it's sometimes some companies can be a bit malicious, and it's good
Yeah.
to look at things in the, a keen eye. But sometimes we can also be overly cautious, and we also hamper progress, because again, part of what they clarified was that part of this content, and it's our access to your content, is limited in ways as permitted by law. So they even gave an example about providing the services that you may need to access, view, and listen to your content. It can be even you just trying to extract the content after you've already edited it on the platform. It can also
Yeah.
be that the platform is trying to help you improve your user experience, and they have to learn your behavior, or learn what you're trying to edit. If you are a person who edits only video content, and the video content maybe is short form content, then the platform has to learn through these engines to understand, how do we make your work. If you're using one 30 24 hours, because sometimes this video editing can take forever, and I don't think any editor if they were told that they could half the time they take on post production, they would, they would flinch an eye, but they just don't have to, or they don't maybe fully understand what it takes for them to, for the platform to then make the user experience better. And you can even take it even for the social media platform. Every time that we get an improvement on the social media platform, it's because those guys are using our data to learn
True.
how to make the user experience better. So sometimes, of course, any with the AI and everybody trying to, fight for data and trying to be the biggest owner of consumer data, so that maybe they can sell it to other large language models. I think we can also try to, direct our rage to the right parties, and especially for platforms that have shown over the years to be, consumer friendly. um to always like, it's sometimes it's with the AI, I think it has made everyone, not even just the tech people, but everyone in the space, to just look at things in a space, in a very suspicious manner. And
Yeah.
maybe that's not so good for us, because we are so anxious. Every time you hear about that development, you're thinking, hey, how is this going to affect my job? How is this going to affect how I consume this data? Or is my data being shared without my will? And yeah, I guess this is the new world we're living in. But I guess people will talk, and social media will be social media. But I think, to be the devil's advocate for Adobe in this case, I think maybe the wording could have been better, but they just told people what people have been told in other platforms. The language has just been different.
In a different way.
So, like,
Yeah.
probably every time you're text, or you even your phones, because my phone text has been recently sharing me with me very regular updates about updating my terms of service. And I bet if I was so keen about learning what they are telling me, the next launch I
Mhm.
will be seeing about, Apple Intelligence or Google or Galaxy AI, it will probably be because I gave my
You
data to
updated.
them, and they're
Yeah.
to somebody else. As a marketer, I'm thinking about it from the business end, and I'm thinking, okay, there are some things that of course we can do better on the AI space, but until we figure out what is wrong and what is right, I think
Yeah.
any company will try to do what's in its best interest to stay ahead of the game. Because unfortunately, that one user who complains, you guys are stealing my data, they'll move to another platform. That
And it
platform
will still be stolen.
captures data. Then if Adobe is to decide, okay, let's not consume this guy's data, then this other platform that is consuming everybody else's data then becomes a better product. And then at the end of it all, nobody will be like, hey, Adobe, you should not have launched this data, because some business decisions just have to be made. And maybe they just have to be better at communicating. So my view would be, Adobe needed to be better in their communication, but the data about, how they gather that data, and a consumer using a platform assuming that they are not going to use that data, maybe a bit naive, or just trying to cause a riot where there needs to be none. But anyway, speaking of controversial things on X has decided that in the coming few months they're going to move or allow adult content on the platform. And there was
Okay.
a whole new, again, we are talking about terms and updating the terms of service. So the X platform, or Twitter, for because we had decided we are not going to call this X no matter what Elon forces us to do. But for X, what has happened is that they are saying now, adult content, or pornographic content will now be allowed on the X platform, as long as the user or the person who is generating that content explicitly states that this is an adult type of content, and they don't maybe publicly display it. Maybe they put it in the comment section and whatnot. But again, it's also causing a lot of uproar on people, and here I have mixed feelings, because I'm thinking, um, if if people are being honest. And also, there's also another controversial bit about X. All the platforms, Google, that is Google through YouTube. We have the Meta and their platforms. All of these platforms have been historically very clear about use or having adult content, or what they call safe for work content on their platforms. But as I was researching on the decision for X, I found out that X has actually never taken a position, leave alone when Musk was the CEO. Even before him, X had never actually taken a position on when. So it was those things you said, the unsaid rules, where you're like, okay, we don't say you should not post, but we also don't say don't we should post. So a lot, that's why a lot of, if sometimes you can be scrolling and then you pop, hey, you're like, what have I just seen? Or you see a lot of trending things that in another platform would have been banned or would have been shadow. They call it shadow banning, where you can, where you known you're a platform, you're an adult content creator, they shadow ban you, and they technically just limit your reach to the small audiences that already know about you. So it's quite an interesting direction that the farm is taking. So I don't know. there is there is the whole thing about X, or adult content being what, because there was a study, I can't remember what it was. Maybe I can find it, but it was saying that even before this explicit uh, updating of the terms and conditions, adult content was making up 13% of excess posts. So it was already quite a significant number. It's just that since nobody talks about it, they say your timeline is curated to what you interest you. So maybe because maybe you're not exposed to it, you assume it's not there, but it is actually something that has always been there. Only that now for some reason they have decided, let's go straight ahead and tell guys now you can do it. It's now saying it's allowed
Yeah, you're
by
making
law.
it legal.
What are you thinking? Yeah, they're making it
Um,
illegal.
okay, for me, I've not. There's a way I've not interacted with X recently for some good time because I just saw the way Elon was just
Are
the
you
changes,
are you those advertisers
especially
who
when
blacklisted X?
especially pardon.
Yeah. Did you follow Disney and I think Apple, who are like, you know what, this guy is too extreme, we are not going to be advertising on X? A lot of
Yeah,
brands actually moved from
especially when they moved to, I don't know, you have to be verified to
advertising
start you to comment and the likes. I just felt like this guy is, it's like
verified.
it's like he's taking X to be his personal,
Yeah, he
his
runs
business.
and
Okay, it's his business.
yes,
Yeah, he
yes.
runs it as if it's his house. So I just decided, okay,
Mm.
I'll try to. And then it's, for some reason X has been having major controversial conversations. Like anytime people feel frustrated, you'll get it on X. I don't know,
Yes, freedom of
but
speech.
yeah, I know. So,
X, I
but on
think,
the other
to be
hand,
fair to Elon, actually, X is the most, at least in the recent times, X has grown to be the platform where speech or opinions are not, are not controlled by the algorithm or by the platform. Mm.
anyway, but on the other hand, when you talk about adult content, there was a time, I think it was 2022, 2023, where we had TikTok. It had the same concerns where
Mm.
it was giving people freedom to just post anything. And even right now, till to date, they have not been able to sort that issue because when after 11 East African time at night, there's a lot
Mm.
of adult content that is being shared on those
It's
platforms. I don't watch, but
so
I've
actually
heard.
we are actually bashing X, but these things happens
Yeah,
in different platforms.
and
Only
and
that
and
they are the
and
unsaid
even
truths.
and to even make it worse, even in TikTok, it's like shared live. Like there's a lot of
Mm.
money. The issue
Oh
that
yeah, yeah. So there's a way to monetize it. I guess
yeah,
actually now
that
come
was
to
the
think of
issue.
it,
That was
I think what the X guys saw is that this thing is happening in TikTok, the biggest platform so far, at least recently in terms of content being generated,
yeah,
and some way it's finding its way on X, or people are generating it on
yeah,
X, but the creators are not earning anything. So
yeah,
I think because
yeah.
it was not explicitly in their terms and conditions, then you cannot actually monetize that type of stuff. In fact, there was their release was actually saying, or their communication said that they consider sexual sexual or adult content or porn as a legitimate form of artistic expression. So they say sexual expression,
Yeah.
according to them, is visual or written and can be considered as a legitimate artistic expression, of which X being, the the poster boy for free speech, and they're
Free
like,
free speech.
we cannot disallow this, and still say that we are promoting. So they're very
Yeah.
creative in how they are justifying it. But what I also
Yeah.
foresee is a lot of also issues with countries. So US
Yeah.
can, maybe if they elect somebody like Trump
European
next,
countries, I know they are good at
it
restricting.
will
Yeah.
be, yeah. So what will happen is they can start getting into trouble with EU, African countries.
Okay.
So I guess there'll be a lot of also, it will be something that clearly is not going to end now. But yeah, adult content has been there, and the only thing you can hope is that, because if actually they make it legal, it is everybody knows the biggest part of the biggest online traffic. If you look at the Google Analytics, if you look at even the social media search traffic, adult content is ranked the highest. Adult, and then you go to betting. So there is a lot of
Yeah.
interest on that. People don't. It's not
Yeah.
something that you can go and start shouting to people. Me, I watch adult. I watch porn, but because
True.
the data suggests that indeed this is actually what is driving a lot of traffic online, then there's a lot of money to be generated. And I fear that when there's a lot of money to be generated in these platforms, then they also have a bias to start tweaking the algorithms to show it to people they think would be interested in that content. So it's my fear is actually not that they'll start generating that content. It is something that is highly likely going to happen. But my concern is how then that affects the algorithm, because if the money starts flowing, then there is a bias for them to start pushing it further and further to make it to generate more money from that venue. And I guess then conversations about morality and whatnot, it will be a very difficult platform to police, especially if the creators of those of that content start actually making money. Because then there's people always find creative ways of skirting around the rules. And as a platform developer, it will be very hard for them to be like, this is our biggest content creator, he's earning us maybe I'm sure the 5% of our revenues, and you're telling them, okay, now you can't start posting content. It will be a very difficult area to police. And my
Yeah.
fear is also now that, let's not pretend that these platforms are guided by moral principles. Everybody in this platform wants to make money. So what will happen is they're just letting Musk become what's it called, the guinea pig for this thing. And
Spokesman.
if you remember, yeah, I know you're not very keen on X, but for me, I think X is a very good platform for a brand that wants to grow as an individual. Like if Steve wants to grow his brand as a marketer, or he's selling clothes or baby items, I can actually build a very solid and loyal following on X, because it's one of the most engaged platforms, and people follow people and engage them directly, and sell stuff. But for corporations, I think it's very hard to penetrate audience, because again, the way the conversations are structured, that quote unquote free speech, very many corporates cannot engage in in some conversations, because like, even just talk about the conversation about even politics or finance act that is happening. No brand wants to act. They'll speak it maybe when they are called for public participation, but you will highly unlikely see a brand going out and saying, we don't want this tax, we don't want this thing, because there is also that different interests that need to be aligned. So for anybody who is on listening maybe to this podcast and is thinking, these guys are saying X is a bad platform because they are bringing porn, I don't think that is the view. The view is, anybody, they are good, there's the good and bad. And for X, it's one of the platforms that has the highest levels of engagement. We'll give them that. But also the decisions they make sometimes are favorable for the user at the expense of the business or the advertiser.
Business.
Because for you to advertise now, you have to be verified if you're a business, actually, not even just for advertising, but if you're a business and they discover you're a business, then they can also start to reduce your engagement rate, so that they force you to monetize. And again, that thing about conflict of interest, when you're making money from a feature, it will be most useful for you force people to use it and try to create incentives. So X is a good platform for guys who are engaged in
Pages.
actual products as tools. But for a corporate, I don't think it's a big platform, especially if you're trying to get a loyal following or try to share your product. Because also again, X is very, of course, Elon again, to his credit, is trying to also move X. Like we were talking earlier, every platform is now becoming a video platform because X is also
Yeah.
trying to. I think they allowed you can do 2 or 3 hour video content on their platform. So X is also trying to move again to the video content, but let's the user experience, maybe they'll improve in future, but it's very hard for me to watch a movie on X, but I can watch a whole podcast like this one on YouTube. The interface is also a lot of updating and changing because an interface that is purely, even how Instagram did, it was very hard for them to move from becoming a platform for images to move it to video. They had to create reels because video, and unless you're very, they'll have to be very creative to find a way to blend content that is image as well as content that is text and make it work. And if you even look at it, what happens is the experience for watching video content on X is not optimal because even they even try to get their own version of reels. And I can assure you, I've used reels, and every time I scroll up, I tell myself I'm not going to use this platform again because the experience is so bad. The recommendations are so poor. It's such a very, they still need a lot of work to do. But when they get it right, X is here to stay, and especially because of what we are seeing in the political scene, people are very conservative. They just try to appear to be liberal for purposes of maybe their organization and what. But in real sense, people are
Yeah.
very conservative and they want their opinions heard, or at least want somebody who has the same opinions to actually have a voice to share it out. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is X, and time will tell about where
Yeah.
that
It is.
I am willing to bet or wager that if indeed X is successful with this, the next guys who will do it will be TikTok and then Meta, and of course then they'll be okay to deal with the different countries, and if we know anything about politicians, as long as you can align with their interest, then they'll just let you have your way around it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not belabor upon content or content
Excellent.
that Musk
Yes.
is accepting or not accepting. There's this thing about AI, and everybody is talking about, you know Google is trying to have their own AI through Gemini. You have the Microsoft and their ChatGPT through OpenAI. We have recently released Apple AI, and we all know that Apple AI is going to be ChatGPT. We also have, I think, Meta have their own AI platform. I told you, Adobe is also building their own large language models. Yeah, Firefly. So it's something. It seems that the whole world has decided this is the direction, and they're going to go for it no matter what. Now, the biggest potential loser for an AI evolution is Google, and for the longest time, Google looked as if they were not growing, or they were not keen on embracing AI. But they then developed this platform. I think it was called Bard, and then they got a lot of bashing for it being useless platform. Then they did Gemini. I don't know now, as a
Gemini.
marketer, Vicky, what your thoughts in terms of what Gemini is. And again, just to tie it into what AI is doing, I think they also developed a where now search, it's come, it's not yet, right now it's in beta mode, but it's going to come in future where search will be the way you are accessing search on Google or Chrome, or even just on different browsers, is going to significantly change when they introduce their new AI platform. What are your thoughts on that? And how does it then affect SEO? Because people are saying SEO is dead, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't
Mm.
know so much about Google is planning, but I would assume that they would be trying as much as possible to protect their biggest revenue
Okay.
um,
So that is a very
line.
wide topic that, but we'll see how we can summarize and make it as
Yeah,
simple
and that
for
content.
business. Yeah. So
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were
maybe
talking
for
about the what that we covered too much on X.
No, we're talking about
Oh.
Gemini and SEO.
Yeah, the AI
Right.
SEO, what is happening in that
Yeah,
space. Maybe
yeah,
just share your thoughts and
yeah.
then we can take it from there.
Yeah, so for someone who doesn't have an understanding of what SEO means, this is an search,
Yeah.
it means it stands for search engine optimization, which basically means that how are you able as a business or a user, how are you able to uh, make your content, which tools or what would you be able to do on your content or on your website to allow the search engines are like Google, Bing, YouTube, to allow the search engines to be able to crawl through the content that you've created, and if they find it useful, you will be able to rank in those pages. Like for example, in Google, if you're talking about, let's say you are selling shoes and you create content in line with those shoes, maybe you're selling official shoes, that content that you create, how are you able to ensure that that content meets the criteria on the search engines like Google to rank in those pages, such that when someone searches for official shoes, you are found on the top ranking. So that basically is SEO. And indeed, most people are talking about SEO being dead because of a number of issues. First of all, there is this argument about the Gemini, which I can briefly talk about. We had the Chat
Yeah.
GPT that came, and everyone was so excited about it. Everyone would go
Excited.
there and talk about Chat
Actually,
GPT.
to be honest,
You want
my
to
search
start?
experience has never been the same.
Okay. Again, now because of that,
I'm a
Google
user of
felt okay.
ChatGPT now.
The
Yeah.
first thing, I'll not really be on your side because I'm still an
No,
SEO
that's why you're
person,
here
which
to speak
I
your
find
views.
people on this side. Yeah, so for Gemini,
Speak for the people
the
like
idea,
you.
yeah, so I'm explaining to you why we still exist. So
Yeah.
Gemini is now I think Google felt that this competition is going to make it lose its value. So they also decided
Yes.
to come up with its own AI. Now, when you go to search right now and you search for information, sometimes you'll get the search the way it was before, but with time it's going to change because the first snippet that you get, Google gives you an AI generated content. So when it gives you that AI generated content, like for example, you search what is the difference between Gemini and ChatGPT, it will give you an AI generated content, and then it gives you a link of other website where they got the information or where you can get more information. So they have tried to emulate to buy from the AI because they know that you still need to be able to get more information. You don't just need to depend on one platform to give you a summarized data. And even right now, ChatGPT with the new advanced features and even the new improvement that they did sometime last year, when you search for
Mm,
information, if the information is too wide, they'll give you links to be able to get more data from it. So it's not that it
mm,
has it's not going it's not going to replace the search engine because think about it,
mm.
where does Chat GPT gets its content? It gets it from the websites.
Yeah,
The
it
website,
scours the
the content
internet
that
and
we
all that.
generate, yes, the content that we generate is that's where
Yeah.
it will analyze that data and then share it with the user. So we can't really replace it. And even Google on the other hand, it can't. This
Mm,
is one of the income generating platform, and it can't seek to lose that income generating platform. And when you look at all these social media platforms, the best way
mm.
to gain revenue is first share free content, and then after sharing free content, put in now the ads for people to be able to benefit or buy the product or service that you're selling. So the free content on search is the websites that are being
Mm.
created. And so Google cannot just think about the adverts because if it loses the free websites, then it will not be able to get the adverts or convince people to buy from them. So I think the when you talk about Gemini, it's just trying to emulate the Chat GPT, but put it on search and then allow people to be able to see more websites. Now, when you talk about
Yeah,
SEO
you
in
say that. You say
yeah.
that, but as a user of these platforms and also understanding how SEO works, I'm still worried that okay, Google will remain Google, and based on what they have launched they launched, I think 2 or 3 months ago. What they're doing is, what you will still be able to search, and but the search will change, and they're calling it search generative experience. But what is happening is, you or me, let's say I want to search for the best tie. Usually I would search, and then I get a search engine response page, which is like a list of the different options. But now with SGE is, or search generative experience is, I will search, Google will give me an answer, because it's no longer going to be giving me links as the first thing. It will give me the best ties are maybe made of 100% cotton, or silk. And then on the side, then it will tell me, these are the sources where we got this data, but also this is where you can buy these ties. And what I foresee is, what will happen is, I think if it was even in their demo, that they will give you the best ties to buy, and then they'll even give you images. Previously, you'd had to go through there was the news, there was
Yes,
the video tab, there was
yes,
so
yes.
Google will find a way, or is finding a way, to sort that out. And maybe for users like you, they will still remain on Google. But my question is, now, for me as a content creator who is generating this content that Google has not displayed, or Google is displaying, but my user is no longer clicking it, how will I earn my money from SEO?
Now you see,
Or
even
how
when you
will
look at Now, you see, even when you look at the links that Google is giving, it's not it.
Mm,
When you look at those links carefully, they are links of websites that are already ranking. Like it just does
yes.
a summary and gives you the links of websites that are already ranking, meaning that you'll still need to optimize your website for you to be part of that uh, suggested links. You can't, it will
Mm,
not just be picking any. So it means that you still need to do that work, that you feel
yeah.
that it will not work.
Optimizing it
Even the chat
to still
GPT
appear.
gives,
Mm.
yes,
So you're saying
I didn't
I'll
get
have
it.
to optimize my site to still appear as the result?
Yes, you still appear as the results, because even right now, when it gives you the links, when you look at those links and you scroll through the websites, you realize that those websites are the ones that appear on the first pages. Even in Chat GPT, it gives you more references. This is where we got our reference. Those references are the ones that are well indexed and are ranking on the page. So maybe the challenge that you will have is that, for example, if
Mm.
you're dealing with blog websites, those are the people that I'm seeing them who those are people that I feel that they need to
Yes,
change their
I am not
strategy.
asking for a tie
Because
now. I want to know.
if you're selling products or service, someone will have to buy the product, and AI will not give you the product. But if you're
That's
a
different.
blog
That's different.
website,
That's a bit clear. And even for
yes,
that one, there is still some challenge, because previously I, as a user, would have to take 10 links. Now Google will not give me 10 links, surely. It will give me like 2 or 3 that have been,
yes,
so it
yes,
also, for a user, while you're saying that you also need to customize it, I think also it makes it very hard for you to rank at the top, because you will have
no,
to do a lot of work just to rank at the
yes.
top.
Yes, you have to do a lot of work. You have to know what you are ranking for. If you're ranking for a cheap tie, then you have to ensure
Mm.
that the keywords are correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
I
just
guess I
changing
guess
the
what you're saying
strategy.
is, it is not actually doing away with SEO. It's actually making SEO more relevant, because now
Yes,
you cannot just be there and wait for people to
yes,
look for you on page 3. You will actually have
yes,
to make it to the top. But still,
yes,
that works for products and
and services.
services. But now,
Yes,
assuming me, my only content is I'm giving personal finance,
yes,
information, or now a marketing blog, I'm telling you how to be the best marketer. How will I rank?
yes.
Or
Now that is the
how will I earn money when people just get answers?
Now that's where we are getting the challenge, because now
Mm.
Google Chat GPT, they are giving you all those solutions. Now that's where we are getting the challenge.
Yes.
In fact, if I was in that field, I would recommend someone to at least have a product or service that they're selling, because most of
Mm.
these blog websites, they get money through the AdSense. But now, if Chat GPT and Gemini and Google are giving you those answers, it's going to be difficult. However,
Yeah.
the Google algorithm, the reason why we had that argument about SEO being dead is because Google in March, they said they are going to update their algorithm. And in the updating of their algorithm, they mentioned two major things made headlines. The first one was they're going to do a spam
Mm.
update, and they are going to reduce on the low content. Now, the low content means they are going to look at content that is not giving users value. Those are the content that
Mm.
they'll penalize. And spam content, they are looking at content that are AI generated content. Now, the
Yeah,
emphasis
there's
was
that issue.
on something they called EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthy. That is your content. Does it have authority? Like the person who wrote this content, is he practicing in the field, or does he know the subject that he's talking about, or did he just go to AI or chat GPT and got the information and spammed on the website? Is he experienced enough to write about that content? They look at the different content that the person has been writing. Is he just writing in any field, or has he been focusing on these major fields such that he has gained experience, he's an expert in the field, he has authority, and the content is trustworthy? So that is what Google is emphasizing
Mm.
on. Now, the challenge was
Yeah.
when they did that
Mm.
update, they gave, like they said, it's going to roll in the next 1 to 2 months. We are now past 2 months. And some of the websites that were getting so much traffic were not only
Mm.
penalized, but some of them were de-indexed. De-indexed means Google crawled into your website and realized that you no longer deserve to be part of us. So you, if you are ranking on the first
Mm.
page, on the top page, you start going down and down and down, meaning you're losing your traffic because most of them had much traffic. They are losing their traffic, meaning they are losing their revenue. And when you look at that content, when you try to analyze, most of the content that were being placed the last 2 years are spam content, meaning that it is AI generated. There is a tool that you can be able to check, is this content 100% AI generated? So if it's 100%, then Google decides this is not content that is useful to the user because you just went and spammed. You didn't even think through, there's nothing different that you did. So Google terms that as spam content. And that's why we had that argument, because now people were getting their pages penalized, de-indexed, and so people were wondering, do we still need SEO? But yes, SEO still exists, but now you need to find how you can create content that is useful to the user. Even if you're to use AI, don't just go and copy paste content that is in chat GPT, but use your content, then take AI as
Mm.
like it does what? It adds some spice to your content, and the
Compliments.
next, yeah, complements your content.
Yeah, I hear you, but I still feel that the people who will be getting the short end of the stick will be content creators, because it will be very hard to justify or to argue to Google that, you used part of my content. Because assuming I'm a content creator and I write blogs or even services, and those services are not directly, I just buy and sell them. So if Google does that search generative experience where I'll get the search, there'll be more incentive for the guy who is actually the manufacturer to sell that product directly to you. Because usually most of these products we buy, even or services we experience, they're through affiliate marketing. Some of them are through distributors. But if I start competing with the distributor, like assuming I'm buying a phone from Samsung, ideally I would go and watch a YouTube video of Vicky doing a review on that phone, and she would give me links. But now
Yeah,
Samsung is competing and putting a bigger budget on that search experience. So even if Google used my content to show Samsung has 10, Samsung doesn't even need to work. I'll do the work for them. And then the link is to directly buy it from Samsung. I don't know if you're seeing the conundrum that is putting a lot of content creators. And then it will be very hard to fight Google from, all the way from Kenya, them using your content, because they'll argue this content was available on the internet, it's available on our platforms, and probably they've already changed people's terms and conditions that they don't even are not aware. Like I feel like that place is going to be a very murky area. But the area
yeah,
that you've clarified, which I doubt, is that at least for the guy on the product end, if you can find a way of getting your links ranked or your image appearing as part
products.
of the search results, because it will move to image and then slowly video and whatever. But if you can find a way, at least for the product side, you will work hard, but at least the rewards will still be there. Actually, now what is happening is you'll have to work harder
Yeah,
to just maintain your position, and it's a very unfortunate
yeah,
thing for,
yeah,
especially for the guys who are on the business end, as well as the content creators. But on the consumer end, you don't really care. But you don't care because it's not a product in your life. But now, assuming now it comes and touches your line in marketing, or it touches then everybody will be up in arms, because what has happened now is it is now touching AI is now touching a lot of on the creative space. The guys who are making video, the guys who are generating creative design. So because it's still a small bit of the industry, people are just watching, and they don't fully understand the implications of what it will mean. So I think it was a very I wish we can talk more about, especially how this evolution of the AI is going to affect the marketing space, and dig deeper into that SEO understanding. And of course, we might not have the answers, but at least anybody who is listening to this podcast right now can know that this thing is here to stay. You better try to
Yeah.
improve your skills on the SEO. Now use the tools that are available to try to get better in the SEO, and maybe we can talk about that in another video, because it's also another whole big content about how to capitalize on the tools, and also then how do you position your business to not be swallowed by this coming wave, because it's a big wave, and the only winners clearly will be the tech companies. But you
Yeah.
cannot
Yeah.
it's something that is coming. So
Yeah, I think you're very right. Especially for content creators, there's just much that we need to research and find. As much as Google is making all these changes, how will we be able to still remain relevant? That is something that we really need to think about. When you're thinking about optimizing your website, if you're a blog website, how will you be able to still remain relevant on that space? That is something that
yeah,
is
or
an
even get
ongoing
rewarded for your effort,
discussion.
because the fear
Yeah.
is sorry the fear is that then it will reduce the incentive for me to create content, and then the
Yes.
LLMs will now, large language models will now be learning around the same content all over and over, and
Yes.
it
Yes.
reduces the quality, because they are
Yeah.
only relevant right now because they are still scouring content being produced daily. But if there is no
Yes.
incentive for new creation, the machines
Yes.
will, unless you're saying that the machine will now start creating its own content, of which
Yeah, true, by
we are
the
not yet.
way. Yeah. Yeah, because the
Yeah.
effect is on both sides. Because if the content is more
Mm.
content is not created, then where will they get the data to be
Quality
able
goes
to do a
down.
summary?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, that
And
is
I think
very
anybody
true.
who has used ChatGPT is aware of this fact, where the search result the first time it's very good. But as you continue asking it questions, it gets worse, because it
Yeah.
starts repeating itself. Especially, like, say I'm saying I want best give me 10 social media posts. It'll give me some very generic posts. Then I start narrowing down and say, okay, give me 10 social media posts for my business in selling cars. It'll try to narrow down, but it'll still most of the time still uses the same content. Now, if you tell it now build for me a 1 month social media post, it now starts repeating. It just changes the
Repeating.
wording, but the thing is the same. And there's still a lot of work happening. But of course, the fact that it can even do that now in the early stages, it just tells you, as a content creator or a person in any field actually, that you cannot ignore what the AI, because
Yes.
we're just 2 years and it's already generating such content. We have already seen OpenAI is moving on to now, again, think something that maybe we forgot to talk about. It started as you putting in text. Now they're moving in, you can give it commands via voice, and it can also respond via voice. Then they're also
Yeah.
moving that it can also create, you can also give it a script and it creates for you a video, or you can even just ask, give me a movie about a love story, and it will give you some. So that thing,
Yeah.
the evolution is going to be drastic, and we can only hope that in time that there'll also be social responsible use of that platform, so that it also does not
Yeah.
destroy the whole of how people do their business. But any creator or any business, at least you should have a resource that is trying to actively understand how you can maximize the current tools um, to build your business. Because something again that you talked about in the SEO, the way it's ranking. Previously, the biggest type of input was text. People are searching, how do I become a marketer? How do I buy
Yeah.
this car? How much does it cost? But with time, Google introduced Google Lens, that you could search an image, and it has gotten better actually with Gemini. And now in future,
Even
then you shall be having a conversation. It was very hard initially to get a result by putting a whole long process. These days you can write a whole paragraph, and it actually helps the tool to actually narrow down, to give you the best results. So there's a lot of things happening there, and we can only I would urge you maybe continue listening to us and listening to maybe our different platforms. But any person in the marketing space, if you are keen on what is happening on the AI space, you would want to understand how can you leverage on the tools so that when it actually reaches a maturity stage, you are part of the people who are beneficiaries of that growth.
Yeah, I think also that Google had mentioned that in the near future they'll also have options where you can record a question and then you post it and then it will be able to give you an answer. Yeah, so it's really true that the AI is going to really help the search to be better. However, I just wanted to give for businesses, for the sake of business owners, there are three things or proposed solutions that I would recommend. One is if you're in the blog industry or you're selling products or service, then you need at least, if you're in the blog industry, at least have a product or service that you're selling. It will really help you in one way or another. And if you're even creating content in the same space, the e-commerce or the service, then you need to ensure that your content is valuable, you're offering valuable solutions. You know, previously you would focus more on how you'll please the Google Analytics, but right now you're looking at how will you be able to please the user such that the user is convinced with the content that you generate, and therefore sometimes even the user can just go and search for your content directly using your domain. You know, that is very beneficial to you. Then, of course, secondly, local SEO is still beneficial. If you have a physical shop or a physical office, then effectively optimizing your content for local is something that you'll really have to consider. Then, lastly, of course, diversify your traffic. Don't only think about Google search, think about social media. Even TikTok now is a search
Yes,
engine. You have to
actually,
just
we
think
need to
about
have
how,
another conversation about social media as a search engine
yes, but just diversify your
and SEO
traffic.
for
Don't
social media.
rely. Yes, don't rely only on Google or Bing. Expand your presence, develop content on all those platforms, and then try to utilize the different platforms to be able to make more money. Such that even if there is change this side, you're not majorly affected because you've already diversified your content. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And I think that's a good place to end. But because this is a new podcast, we have to have some other uh people call them sometimes Easter eggs, but we have to have additional things that we'll discuss about. And as I was speaking, I realized that yesterday we had I think not yesterday, earlier in the week, we had the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference. It's called WWDC, and some of the outputs or some of the things that came out from that conference, which made me wonder. Initially it used to be a conference where Apple showcases some of their products, innovations, things they're doing on the tech. But these days it has just become a space for Apple to launch products or to share what they're doing. So part of the interesting things, or part of the things that came out in that place, was Apple is now embracing. I don't want to call it embracing AI because they are calling it Apple AI, but if we're being honest, it's just ChatGPT integrated into the iPhone and the different Apple products. So they're calling it Apple Intelligence. And just like, rolling my eyes, like seriously, AI Apple Intelligence. Sure, sure. Anyway, but as a marketer, I can only envy their their arrogance into owning taking an abbreviation and making it their own, so that when they talk about AI on the phones or on their Mac products in future, they'll be saying this is not AI, this is Apple Intelligence. So it's actually a creative way on how they want to position their brand in future for the AI conversations. Then they also introduced something that was, to me, to us Android users, something that everybody uses, calculators on the iPad, but they add some gimmicks, to make it look like they spent all these years doing development on calculators. Then there is the unified view of photos, which is already on most Android devices. There is the RCS messaging, which they were forced to do by the EU, where when you share messages on Apple, they would appear very different from a person who is using an Apple device, just to force guys to use the iMessage and their platform. But that has been changed. Though they have still found a way of still making the experience a bit frustrating for the
Interesting.
Android user when you share across platforms. But to the EU's, if you can acknowledge their efforts, at least they made Apple, flinch, because Apple rarely does such things. and then other just normal product features, and of course the launching of the Apple 18, with the different features. But yeah, anybody who is interested in Apple, we can say the 15% of the world's users, although it makes up, it's almost like 60% of American users. But sometimes Americans feel like the whole world revolves around them, and their product launches can seem like the whole world is interested. But if you look at it globally, the share of Apple devices is very, very, very little. But yeah, for anybody who is interested in that as part of the marketing or tech news, Apple launched their new iOS, and if you want more features, maybe you can do another video, but you can look at that. Yeah, as we end, there is something
Okay.
also I've been reading, but because we read so that you don't have, you can just listen. There is another study that showed that in US, the people who are Gen Zs are also giving birth. 1 in 5 Gen Zs are giving birth. So as a product developer, or not a product developer, as a person in the business of kids, as well as manufacturers for diapers and kids products, you need also to start tweaking your marketing to address this audience, because 20% of the new births are now Gen Zs wameanza kuzeeka. So start also aligning your business into now creating content and products and messaging that resonates with this niche audience. Because when you grow with such an audience, that's how even brands, the social media brands grew. They grew with us millennials, because then we were a young generation, and now even as other platforms come, they can still at least rely on this core audience. And you should also, as a new business, try to build a niche in the Gen Z and grow with them as you also transition to Gen Alpha. Um, Unless you have anything more, Vicky, that is it from us and the Marketing Matters podcast.
Yeah. Just tell you to, if you are watching it on YouTube, remember to subscribe, click on the notification button as on podcasts, download, and we'll really appreciate.
Yeah, like, share, subscribe. Thank
Yeah.
you, and see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.